So, now that we are all here, it's time to get down to business. The two of you are the only rooks that have made the latest cut. The rest, well, let's just say they won't be joining us ever again. Neva's willing to put her neck on the line and vouch for you, which means you've got what it takes to join the Crimson Fleet. If dealing with the Ragana was at the limit of your capabilities, then you have a serious problem on your hands. You are already in too deep to quit. And I can promise you, it only gets more difficult from here. All right, let's get started here. When you sign up with the Crimson Fleet, you're in it for the long haul. No one quits. No one retires. The only way out is death. You stay loyal or you pay the consequences. Fleet before friends. Fleet before family. Fleet before yourself.
Hey, if you've got a problem, I can decorate that wall behind you with your brains. Room could use a little color if you ask me.
It's all right, neighbor. I admire this rook's backbone. Takes a lot of guts to crack jokes with the threat of death staring them in the face.
Can we get on with this? I want to get drunk at the last Nova.
I'm impressed. That is the first intelligent thing you have said this entire time, Mathis. Since you two seem so eager to move forward, let's get to your next job. Pack your cold weather gear, rooks. Where we are going, you're going to need it.
Oh, God, don't tell me you're dragging him down to Suvarol for another one of your little initiation runs. 10 Johns to the surface, 12 dead rooks. You'd think by now you would have given up on that goddamn campfire story.
Crix's legacy is no story, neighbor. We've got fresh eyes in the fleet. And if these two want to impress, they're going to help me search those ruins.
I hope you're right, Dale. That new code we grabbed for the lot cost us a ton of credits. And a decent captain.
This initiation, as Neva calls it, is your chance to see where it all began. On Suvorov with Jasper Crix. Crix led the riots that gave birth to the Crimson Fleet. And if his legacy is still out there, we're going to be the ones to find it. Through a bit of luck and a hell of a lot of cash, Neva was able to get her hands on an access code to the inside of the lock. This will be the first time someone from the Crimson Fleet has set foot in there for, well, since Crix left the place behind. It has been frustrating being this close to potential clues, but not being able to find a way through those prison walls. Of course. Where else could I find such a perfect location to weed out any rooks who'd be wasting the fleet's time? Before Crix left the fleet, he left a message talking about a major score. One that would set up the fleet to be a big player in the settled systems. Somewhere down the line, they started calling it Crix's legacy. And everyone who's tried to find it has wound up empty-handed, missing, or dead. If we're gonna beat those odds, we'll first need a lead. And I would wager we will find one on Suvorov.
Dale's leaving out the best part. That this whole search is based on a handful of words on a very old slate. Crix left a lot of big talk on that recording, and not a lot of facts. Some of us believe in it more than others.
Don't listen to her. When we get our hands on Crix's legacy, the fleet will be operating at a completely different level. We will become more than a match for UC Systef. You forget the UC is still licking its wounds from the colony wars. They don't have the capability to mount a full-scale assault. And if they were foolish enough to attack, we would have the manpower to push those pendejos right back to Jemison. If we have Crix's legacy. Listen to the words that I am saying. The legacy is real. You will find that out in due time, provided you're willing to put in the work. Nothing worth having ever comes easy.
Just as long as it isn't buried at the bottom of the ocean. Digging I'm fine with, but diving? I'll take a pass. Planets in this system are cold enough already.
Only to a small-minded rook. You want to be content with your petty crimes? Go join a gang in Neon. Okay, enough discussion. We have got a lot of work to do. To that end, the next stop is the lock. I've had Jazz feed the coordinates into your ship's computer. Since Mathis doesn't have a ship, he's going to ride with me. I'll see you down there, Rook. Don't keep me waiting. I could tell you stories that would last for hours. But now is not the time. You have a job to do, and I don't like to be kept waiting. When you... well, if you get back to the key, I am sure you can find some copies of the interview he gave to SSNN around here, somewhere. I think those recordings might give you the history lesson that you are looking for. I would rather you spent your time gearing up, so make it quick. Nobody knows exactly what went down. I mean, there's all sorts of rumors. Creeks was in prison for almost 5 years. And judging from the look of the facility, every moment must have been miserable. I suppose he just got fed up and decided to take matters into his own hands. Got the prisoners behind him and kept pushing until he reached the key. The cojones on that guy. UC's toughest supermax prison, and he just waltzed the hell out of there like it was nothing. I would love to have been a part of that. The UC built the lock as a supermax prison a little under... well, it must have been at least 100 years ago. Before that, those concha de sus madres marooned prisoners on the planet's surface and left them to their own devices. So you can imagine, these turned into some kind of demented survival of the fittest. Prisoners killing each other for a chance at the meager supplies. Luckily, some whistleblowers back in New Atlantis saw this as cruel and unusual punishment and pressured the UC into building the facility. 5 years after the prison was completed, Crix touched off the riots that overran the lock and eventually the key. There is no deal. You and Mathis are two sides of the same coin. A couple of rooks fighting for a spot in the fleet. Only problem is that he is down a ship and you are not, which puts you ahead. Just barely. Who knows? Maybe he'll get lucky and you won't make it off Suvorov in one piece. It's cold. Bitter cold. Just about the last place you would want to find yourself without heat. The few living things that can survive the extreme temperatures are constantly fighting to stay at the top of the food chain. The Crimson Fleet called Suvorov the White Hell. To me, it's paradise. Someone up here pisses me off enough, I send them down to the surface for a little overnight visit. Snaps them right back into line. Fine, then get moving.
I thought Delgado needed you on the planet. Why are you talking to me? Because that's exactly what you are. A rookie, a newbie, fresh meat. Beneath all of that inexperience, I'm sure you have an actual name. But honestly, no one gives a damn. So get used to hearing that word. Until you earn your stripes, you're a rook to everyone in the fleet. Mathis is a real piece of work. Adler shoveled him onto us about a week before you turned up. One of the greediest rooks I've seen come through the key in a long time. Dumb as a bag of spanners, too. Do you know he had the guts to ask Delgado for jump fuel compensation after being asked to fly out here? He didn't get it, but damn. If you want my advice, save everyone the trouble and make sure he doesn't come back from your little planetary excursion on Suvorov. Let's put it this way. I know Delgado needs something to give rooks like you some confidence. But let's get real for a second. Do you really think Crix could hide that much wealth and keep it hidden from the rest of us for over 100 years? No way. Secrets last as long as supernovas around here. No one can keep their mouth shut unless someone shuts it for them. Nah, It's all a bunch of bullshit. Look, I'm not trying to bust Dale's balls. He's not the first to go looking for that fairy tale, and I'm damn sure he's not gonna be the last. What kind of stupid question is that? This is the Crimson Fleet. Trusting someone is as pointless as trying to carry water in your bare hands. Do you have any idea how many assholes I've had to put down because they decided to try and make a run at me? Or Dale? Way too many. Just follow directions and keep making the fleet money. And we won't have a problem. Clear?
Tell us what the future holds for the Crimson Fleet.
Changes are coming, Gale. Huge changes. Crimson Fleet will soon be a much bigger player in this little game between the members of the settled systems.
That's quite a bold statement. Would you care to elaborate?
Well, let's just say that I'm on the brink of a score so large, it makes everything else pale in comparison. Beyond that, you'll just have to wait and see.
If you aren't willing to discuss the details, why grant SSNN this interview?
Simple. I refuse to allow the UC to spin or bury the story, making it sound like they're in complete control of the situation. I'm gonna tell you right now, they aren't.
Why does the Crimson Fleet need to make this mysterious move that you're being so evasive about?
I know SysDef instructed you to draw this meeting out as long as possible. So let me sum this up. I intend to make sure that the Crimson Fleet becomes the United Colony's worst nightmare. And nothing, I mean nothing in this universe, will stop me from achieving that goal.
There are those that would disagree with you and claim this interview is grandstanding, or worse, a recruitment tool. After all, SSNN reaches every corner of the settled systems, and your aspirations could inspire the directionless to turn to the fleet.
You and the sheep that listen to your garbage can believe whatever the hell you want. If you were so worried about what I had to say, you wouldn't have allowed yourself to be brought here.
So, looks like we got ourselves a new rook. Once again, I'm Jazz, resident engineer here. Like Neva said, you need ship parts, repairs? I'll hook you up. As long as your credits are good. Neva's mine, so don't be getting any ideas. She may be a little rough around the edges, but she's just looking out for her own. There's no one better to have your back. Neva's the only one who calls me that, amongst other things. To you and everyone else, it's just plain old Jazz. Well, it did when I first got here. Most of these folks aren't too keen on maintenance. Today, the key's about as safe as any other UC station, just with a hell of a lot more personality. I can guarantee your ship will be in good hands, so if you're looking for an upgrade, let me know. We got the best selection in the settled systems. Illegal, unregistered, recalled. We sell it all. No questions asked. No. You buy from me, you're worry-free. I can't have my customers getting caught now, can I? That's bad for business. Anything that keeps the UC and Freestar Rangers off your tail is a must-have in my book. Just let me know when you want to talk business.
I want to play again. Ping pong table. You and me.
Truth is, the fleet rescued me. Of course, I wouldn't have needed rescuing if they hadn't blown up the ship I was working on. Delgado plucked me out of space and brought me to the key. I took one look at the place and was compelled to work. Soon after, he offered me a permanent spot with the fleet. Serious enough that you don't have a chance in hell? Neva's got a fire in her. The kind you only see in an engine pushed to its limit. She doesn't half-ass a damn thing, and I love her for it. No, but just remember, I don't work for free.
No
price is too high when it comes to protection, right? But me? Nah, not anymore. When it comes to aim, there ain't no one worse. True facts. I mean, my friends like to say I'd have better luck talking someone to death than shooting them. Yep, my talents are best suited for making protective gear. Helmets, vests, suits. You could say I'm a tailor, not a fighter. Well, only the best tactical gear to protect your ass this side of the galaxy. Metal plated for when you're up against bullets. Leather for those jobs that might require a subtle touch. All made by yours truly, of course, except for a few used odds and ends that no one's gonna miss.
Well, Neva's new hotshot. I knew you'd find your way back to my little corner of the key. Everyone always does. Take a look around, genius. And don't tell me you've never laid eyes on a gun before. But just in case I need to spell it out for you, the merch I carry is known as weapons and ammunition. Get it? Good thing I'm not here to impress. I carry most of the standard hardware. You know, kinetics, electromags, energy, even a few explosives. Occasionally, I stock a few smuggled items. Basically the stuff SysDev doesn't want you to play with. Just don't screw me over or I'll be inclined to give you a free demo. With your head as the target. Not being intimidated by me is one thing. The fleet? That's another. A little advice, Sadiqi? The fleet's trust can't be bought. You earn it. You bleed for the fleet bleeds for you. Pure and simple. Anyone who says otherwise is either lying or getting ready to stab you in the back. Ah, please, I don't need your concern. All I care about is separating you from your credits. So let's leave our professional relationship at that, all right? I'd argue Boggs got me beat as far as customer base goes. But when it comes to profit, I am on top. A good gun's what makes all the difference out there sometimes. And for some, it's the only thing they'll ever trust.
Don't even try to rip me off. I know value when I see it. I was raised fleet. My mama joined up when I was 12. She was a first-class smuggler. We'd always lived comfortably, but she took the offer to join when a job almost went south. She figured if anything ever happened to her, it'd guarantee I'd still have a home.
Unfortunately, this particular species is very invasive.
It's been non-stop. Even as a kid, I was helping distract security in those smuggling days. It's amazing how just having a child aboard, especially one as cute as I was, can throw off the scent. Between my mama and the fleet, I can talk my way out of anything, and use or fix any weapon and ship in the galaxy. Real-life skills, if you know what I mean. I sell a little bit of everything, but only if it's hard to find, and only for a high price. Neuroamps, a few unique resources, maybe a specialized weapon or two. Anything that's rare and in high demand.
What'll it be, friend? Buying, selling? The Trade Authority takes anything and everything. Yeah, like you don't know. Oh, you really don't know, do you? To the public, we promote free trade throughout the galaxy. You see, Freestar Independent, doesn't matter. To you and your friends here, same rules still apply. We buy and sell any goods, no questions asked. A well-kept appearance gives the impression of a respectable establishment. The more respectable the place, the more credits people are willing to pay.
Are you kidding? A half a second can make...
The fleet's got an impressive commerce system. They even managed a legitimate doctor among their ranks. Business on the Key is like no other. It's the sole reason I'm here, for the credits. It's the mutual benefit. The Trade Authority buys any goods of value. We don't care how you got it, only that we can profit from it. It's the fastest way to turn your hard-earned loot into legitimate credits, ready to spend. So, naturally, it made sense to establish a presence here. Why risk flying into New Atlantis or Aquila City when you can just do business here? I'd say it's been about 10 years now since the Trade Authority assigned me this post. It felt a little extreme at the time, but I can see why they figured it was a good fit. There are a few who share that sentiment. You'd think a successful business relationship would change their minds, but a few will always see me as an outsider. Regardless, as long as the fleet has goods to push, the Trade Authority will always maintain a presence on the quay. I left a similar lifestyle behind when I joined the Trade Authority, and never looked back. A lot of the rooks here see freedom in lawlessness, but that's only if you don't get caught. True freedom is not having a bounty on your head, with every cop and mercenary out to get you. Let's just say I've done my fair share of questionable activities in the past. With the credits I amassed, I gave the Trade Authority a sizable donation in exchange for a clean slate and a stable job. So, here I am, at your service.
First time visiting the infirmary, huh? Let me give you a piece of advice. Try not to get into too many bar fights. I'm trying to save my dwindling supplies for sale and pirates coming in off of raids. I've done my time, but thanks to a malpractice suit, I've officially dropped the doctor title. Don't let that worry you. I'm still just as good, if not better, than half the surgeons at the clinic. That's what they all say, until they stumble in bleeding out on my floor. So here's what's what. You need med packs, curatives, preventatives, I've got you covered. At least as long as my current supply holds out. You need enhancers, legal or illegal? I've got those too. In the fleet, someone has to do it, so it may as well be me. This way, I've got a good idea of who's on what and how much. If they come in for any real medical treatment, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. A dealer with a full medical background. Thank you very much. Now, if you don't need anything else, I've got a particularly annoying supply issue to deal with. You'd think most of the injuries I treat are from run-ins with security or civilians taking a stand. But I'd say at least half are just life on the quay. Brawls, egos, and plain old stupidity. At least it keeps me busy. Now there's an offer I didn't expect. If you really want to help, I'm looking for someone who can handle themselves in a public setting. As in someone who knows how to get the job done without shooting up the place. Well, you'd be one of the first. I politely requested a list of supplies from Gennady Aton at the clinic and was told the price of business has gone up. I think he's back on Aurora, and he's upcharging me to pay for it. And if there's one thing I'm not going to do is subsidize his habit. I want you to make sure he delivers my supplies for the price we agreed on, but without raising any alarms. Oh, we will. But this way, I'm guaranteed the highest quality supplies from one of the best medical facilities in the settled systems. Plus, if Gennady does what he's supposed to do, he'll cover our tracks. We'll see. Talk is one thing, actions are another. Oh yeah, the funny thing is, he's the poster boy for upstanding moral citizens. Top of the class at nursing school, did volunteer work in backwater settlements, a reputation you could eat your food off of. Nobody knows he did it all zoned out of his mind. Nobody except his old boss, me. He said he got clean when he joined the clinic, but now I wonder. A bullshit one, yeah? Gennady claims prices have gone up for the clinic as a whole, and that I'm not the only doc being hit. He says if I want cheaper goods, I'm going to have to find another supplier. He even gave me a list. but I'm not turning to some third-rate doc selling meds out of their space truck. Gennady and I had a deal, and I want him to honor it.
Hey, so I'm really enjoying our time together. Thought you should know. It's been a long time since I worked with someone so closely. I didn't realize how much I missed it. And you haven't stopped me from looking into this stuff with Irvin either. So, thank you. Well, there's a school of thought that you shouldn't go chasing ghosts. And they're probably right. Ghosts are spooky. But maybe this isn't that kind of chase. And Irvin's case is far from dead. See, that's what makes you a good captain in my book. You're supportive. On that note, I do have some news about Irvin's case. So, I wanted to let you know that I heard back from my contact, and I think you'll want to hear this. They sent me a copy of some public records. It's interesting. There was a claim filed against Irvin, accusing him of damaging their investments. Looks like Irvin didn't even enter a plea. Some of Irvin's paychecks were seized, as well as any assets that weren't under joint ownership. The Hephaestus Mining Corporation, and they also won the case. He wasn't even on the planet for the duration of the trial. I think they scared him off. Anyway, this mining corporation, Hephaestus, sued Irvin, claiming he irreparably damaged their mine. They said he killed the apex predators in the area around the mine, which led to herd creatures overeating the grasses. That caused the soils to release too many gases too fast, which cost Hephaestus a ton of money. Thank you. So, is this a cover-up? If so, of what? And why did it involve Irvin? So anyway, according to the court documents, there was a witness for the defense, who was a no-show too. Then Hephaestus won by default. They tried to take his apartment, but because it's in my name too, they couldn't. They withdrew their testimony the morning of the trial. Said they had a sincere change of heart. I didn't know he bought it. Must have been a better deal than renting for the time he was there. Yes, they plan to stay in the same system for a while. That doesn't mean we can't do anything about it. And if nothing else, I just want to know more about what happened to Irvin. So here's what I was thinking. I can persuade my contact to keep digging a little bit more. I don't want to press our luck, so I'll just ask them to follow up on one thing. Should I tell them to investigate the company more, or look into the witness instead? For that much money? They'll do it. You know, this investigation is time-consuming, but it's also pretty cathartic. And who knows? Maybe if we solve this case, it'll mean a better future for Gagarin. But that's thinking too far ahead. Anyway, Captain, thanks for checking in with me.
Hey, Cap, you hiring? Got some baddies on my tail, and I need a place to lay low.
It's you who ends up with all...
I'm a smuggler. Making enemies comes with a job. This time, I got in over my head and made one who's more dangerous than me.
Seems to me, instead of trawling deep space for stick change, we got a
I suppose I can't rightly blame you for that. It's the Varun Zealots. They've been on my tail a while. They're easy enough to avoid in places like this, but I'm history if they see my ship cruising around the space lanes again.
First off, the creds you spend here go to the fleet.
They're a group of cultists who operate on the edges of known space. Real nut jobs. They shoot at just about anyone who comes near them. They're big on grudges too. That's how I ended up on their radar.
Or get the hell
Oh, I'm a real scrapper. Good in a fist fighter in the gunner seat. Doesn't matter to me so long as there's a strong drink waiting when the fight's over. I've also got pretty sticky fingers, if that suits you. If the Varun zealots don't sound like a problem to you, then I can't wait to see what you're made of. Sure, fine by me. I'm looking forward to the adventure.
I was wondering when you'd wander my way. The name's Fergus. Fergus Wickham. But you could call me Bog. Welcome to the Last Nova, where the drinks are never free. Got it back in my experimental days. Before we fixed up Nova, she was a real boggy mess. Practically an indoor swamp. I figured some of what's growing around here could make some decent booze. Some might say I only got the booze part right. Guilty? You name it, I got it. Although, I can't speak to quality. We don't believe in expiration dates here as long as it gets the job done. As long as you're buying, stay as long as you like. The Last Nova never sleeps, so no last call here. Since it's your first time with us, I'm willing to make an exception to the rule and offer you my speciality. On the house. 1 free bottle of Bog's Grog. No, can't complain, right? And if you like it, you're in luck. Cheapest drink you can find, and guaranteed to drown those sorrows. Nova wasn't always the lovely sight you see before you. She used to be a hydro farm, and put up quite a fight when we decided to give her a makeover. Overgrown water everywhere. Almost gave up. But what's a proper home without a pub, eh? Now that's a trade secret, mate. And a homegrown one at that. But nothing to worry about. I've been serving it up going on 20 years now. Only things that kill my customers are bullets and stupidity.
You didn't forget about me, did you? Thought you'd never ask, Cap. Bad call on my part, honestly. I ran into a group of them at a spaceport and thought I'd try my hand at stealing some stuff from one of their ships. House Varun's stuff sells for a pretty penny to the right people, but it's hard to come by. The zealots caught me red-handed and chased me out of town. They've been on my tail ever since. Can't go a week without getting shot at. That's why I was hanging at the quay when we met. Only place I felt safe, really. Only stories. I've heard they're a religious cult that worships something called the Great Serpent. It's supposed to live in the stars or something. Their leader's supposed to have dreamed the whole thing up during a grav jump. Guess he had some hallucination where the Great Serpent spoke to him. Don't know if any of that's true, though. No one I know's had a conversation with one of them. Cap, no one's a fan of those nut jobs. I don't know many spacers who could survive a close encounter with a Varun ship. They're lethal. Most people who hang out at the Last Nova walk around armed, that's all. Figured that would give me a better shot at survival if the Zealots came calling. Doubt it. The Zealots are unforgiving to say the least. Guess that means you're stuck with me, eh? If you want to go for it, be my guest. Just ditch my ass at the closest bar first, will you? It's nothing short of a miracle that they haven't killed me yet. I'm not interested in tempting fate. Let's talk about something else. My skin's starting to crawl. Gagarin Landing. Your average dead-end mining town. Economy's crap, planet's hostile, locals don't like strangers. You get the drill. Not exactly New Atlantis. I grew up on the street with a handful of other orphans. We got by on pickpocketing and scamming passing pilots at the local market. Wasn't it a bad life, really? Street living was tough, but I liked it there. My gang and I had lots of good times. If the smuggling bug hadn't bitten me, I might have grown old on Gagarin. They're the finest group of vagabonds in the settled systems. None of us had stable families, so we stuck together on the streets for safety. Some left when we grew up. But those of us who hung around became the terror of Gagarin. By the time we were teenagers, there wasn't a clean record among us. We drove security mad for years between the stealing, the vandalism, and the grifts we pulled off. Good times. Yeah, they are. Some stuck with a life of crime, but a few turned legit and opened businesses, or got jobs for the corporations that moved to town recently. Not my bag, but I don't hold it against them. Not a bit. A record's a badge of honor for a girl like me, Cap. Security's booked me for petty theft, vandalism, and attempting to sell contraband. Never done hard time, though. A few weeks in jail, nothing serious. My gang drew the line at violent crime, so we mostly avoided hefty sentences. Must be in my blood, right? Life on the straight and narrows never suited me. Nope, not a clue. They left me in a box outside Chunks when I was a baby and haven't tried to find me since. They didn't even bother to give me a name. People just called me Kiddo until I was old enough to pick something different. Sure, might retire there someday, but that's a long ways off. I'll make do with the occasional visit for the time being. Gagarin's an acquired taste, I'll give you that. That's what I like about it. Been a while now since I got into the business. First hopped on a trade authority ship at 18 and I've been working the space lanes ever since. I was lucky enough to work with one of the best smugglers in the galaxy right from the get-go. We made tons of credits scamming and running contraband together. She retired a couple years back and passed her operation on to me. Been flying solo since. Not nearly as much fun, but I make do all right without her. Mainly drugs and contraband tech. My partner Caitlin also had a thing for Earth antiquities. Books especially. When we could get our hands on the real thing, we sold them to collectors who were rich and powerful enough to keep law enforcement's eyes off our operation. When we couldn't get real ones, we forged them. Caitlin was great at it. We ran that scam for years and never got found out. Oh, Caitlin's got a real interesting story. She comes from a rich family and her parents had a thing for collecting ancient art. She was set to inherit a fortune when she grew up, but life with a silver spoon didn't suit her. She ran away from home as a teenager to start smuggling. Knowing her now, you'd never guess she came from money. She's as rough around the edges as I am, but she never lost her taste for expensive stuff from Earth. I tried to scam her. Some buds and I used to steal cargo from the Gagarin spaceport and sell it back to its owner for a higher price. Most people fell for it, but not her. Instead of a handful of credits, she showed up to meet us with 2 armed spacers to demand her goods back for free. I stepped in to negotiate, got them to drop the guns, and even managed a few credits for the stuff. Caitlin was so impressed that she offered me a job on the spot. She has a large book collection. Her prized possession was a book called Paradise Lost that she came across by chance in Aquila City. Personally, I never got through more than a few pages, but to each their own. She insisted it was brilliant, and she's a hell of a lot smarter than me. I always told her she took it for granted. If I'd been born with money like that, I'd have been lazy my whole life. But she's a free spirit. Jeez, listen to me going on. All this reminiscing's got me feeling like a real sap. She did, but I made plenty of my own too. Caitlin's too smart to get wrapped up in a mess like I'm in with the Zealots. She'd kick my arse if she found out. It was. Damn good thing this job turned out to be a decent substitute. I might have split by now if it wasn't. Varun Zealots or not. Anything else you wanted to ask me? I've missed small talk. I could do this all day.
Nice to see you. That's fine, Dusty. No, I don't. I only ask as many questions as I need to get my job done. I had no idea it was dangerous. No. Whatever that thing was, it's the only one I've ever seen. I'm glad it's not my problem anymore. Don't hold grudges, Dusty. I sent you to do the job I was paying you for. Running into strange things underground is an occupational hazard for miners. I never considered anything else. My parents were miners too. I've been learning the trade since I was old enough to dig. The longest I've spent above ground was the 1.5 years I served in the UC military during the Colony War. That was more than enough for me. I prefer to keep my boots full of dust and my pockets full of credits. Less trouble that way. What about it? I did. I know I don't seem like the military type. Like most people, I was less practical when I was young. I was talked into it. Someone I loved felt called to serve, and he asked me to join him. Only one of us walked away from the war, though. I was only in the military for 1.5 years. I spent the rest of the war underground, mining materials for the UC to turn into ships and bullets. I was a drill sergeant. You don't seem surprised. I have a firm hand and a knack for getting the best out of people. The UC saw that and put me in charge of training new recruits for combat. Well, I lost someone dear to me in the war. I'm as strict as I need to be to make sure my workers' families don't have to go through that too. Mining can be as dangerous as combat, you know. There's a good reason why I've held on to old habits. It was my husband. The love of my life. He was killed just a month before the armistice. No, we didn't. I was stationed at a recruiting center on Jemison, and he served on the front lines. He was a crewman aboard one of the UC's largest ships. He used to tease me about how much more exciting his service was than mine. He always hated being stuck in cities for too long. Thank you. It was never quite the same after he died. Sure. His name was Manuel. He was a miner, like me. We were stationed at the same outpost for a few years, and we had the same supervisor. He was a better man than most. Honest, kind-hearted, and even-tempered. I've never felt more at peace than I did when I was with him. Losing him was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Damn colony war. 5 years. Then we were married for most of it. I knew he was right for me after our first conversation. And I'm not the type to waste time. I can still remember the look on his face when I asked him to marry me. Do I seem like the motherly type, Dusty? No. We never had children of our own. Manuel has a daughter named Miranda, but she was already a teenager when we got married. She lives in New Homestead with her family. We aren't very close, but I try to see her every time I pass through the Sol system. Heartbreaking doesn't even begin to describe it. Manuel was absolutely everything to me. Losing him shook me to my core. I've never been the same. Manuel was my greatest joy. When he died, he took most of my happiness with him. I couldn't handle the heartbreak, so I threw myself into work. I barely looked up from a cutter for years after that. I figured if I kept my head down and my workers safe, that eventually I'd get over the loss. But it's like I said, time doesn't heal everything. I believe I was only ever meant to love one person. I still hate waking up without him. I was with the other officers at my base when a report came through about one of our ships being destroyed. I recognized its name from Manuel's messages. It took a few days before the casualty reports started coming through. But by the time one of the officers came to console me, I already knew he was gone. Space battles don't tend to leave many survivors. I don't think so either. I don't know if distracting myself instead of finding a way to move on was the right choice. That's the trouble with aging. The more of it you do, the more foolish your younger self looks. If it is time to move on, then leaving Argos was a good first step. I don't have as much to worry about out here.
Hey, you need something? Go ahead, I'm all ears. Okay, what's on your mind? You heard of New Homestead in the Sol System? Most people haven't. It's out in the sticks, on one of Saturn's moons. That's where I grew up. Not exactly the most exciting place to be a kid. It's got a lot of ice, a lot of wind, and not much of anything else. I wasn't exactly torn up about leaving to work for Argos. If my family weren't still working the wind farms there, I don't think I'd ever go back. Oh yeah, big time. New Homestead was one of the first places people settled after we left Earth. Back then, wind power was all the rage. Some of the equipment at the farm's been around since the first generation of settlers made it to Titan. And it shows, let me tell you. Lots of people in New Homestead work there, including my mom. It's not the greatest job, but it sure beats the ice mines. Boss, I spent most of my time collecting rocks. For fun. That should tell you everything you need to know about the bustling metropolis that is New Homestead. The place makes Sidonia look like the big city. I had more fun freezing my ass off looking for meteorites than most New Homesteaders do in their entire lives. Not enough, according to my mom. But I try to get back every couple months, and I keep in touch when I'm not there. Yeah, I never saw myself living in New Homestead forever. To tell you the truth, I hope my family splits too. My mom's always talked about retiring to Jemison. Of course, that'd be a whole lot easier if she didn't have so many kids to look after. New Atlantis isn't exactly cheap. Hopefully she'll be able to move someday, though. I worry about her. Wind farming's a pretty dangerous job. Maybe someday, when my brothers are older. Well, my dad's not in the picture, but I have the best mom in the settled systems. More brothers than you can shake a stick at, too. Raising us gave Mom a real run for her money. It's a miracle she didn't leave us to freeze at one of the ice mines on Titan. We got in all kinds of trouble as kids. I've got 6. Evan, Tim, Ethan, Shane, Lucas, and Finn. Or, boys, get the hell down here, as our mom likes to call us. I'm the oldest by a couple years. Finn's the youngest, he's only 10, and the rest of them are moody teenagers. She's a New Homesteader, born and raised. Her family's been working the wind farm since the first generation of settlers made it to Titan. She's a great mom. Never lets anyone put her kids down. You should have seen how mad she got when she found out people at school were making fun of my rock collection. She was so determined to get me to stick with it that she read every geology book I had so she could ask me about my collection. That meant a hell of a lot to me. Couldn't tell you. He split to join a spacer group when I was young, and I haven't heard from him since. Broke my poor mom's heart. Mom took it the hardest. She and my dad were together a long time. I don't think she saw it coming. I sure didn't. And most of my brothers were too young to get what was happening, but they could tell how upset our mom was. That was hard on everyone. But hey, we got through it okay in the end. My mom and I leaned on each other and managed to keep things running while we got back on our feet. I was 12. He left while I was out collecting rocks with a couple of my brothers. Didn't say goodbye or anything. Real class act, huh? Nope, and I don't plan on it. He made it pretty clear that he didn't want to know me, so I don't want to know him either. I'm not. My family means a lot to me, and my dad treated him like crap, so I didn't have a very hard time writing him off. Yeah, you can say that again. My brothers and I are always up to something. It's a good thing I grew up in a town where our definition of getting into trouble was screwing around with old mining equipment. We would have raised all sorts of hell in a big city like New Atlantis. Lynn convinced me. She and some Argos miners stopped by my hometown on Titan to refuel, and I happened to be on shift at the spaceport that day. I noticed some rare minerals in her cargo hold and started chatting with her about them. She was impressed by how much I knew about geology and offered me the gig. It wasn't a hard sell. Lynn seemed like a decent boss, and the salary was great. Besides, my rock collection had gotten as big as it was gonna get on Titan. No way. Whatever you found down there had some seriously weird energy coming off of it. Honestly, I hope I never see something like that again in my life. Hell yeah, I do. I've been working on it for years. I used to collect mineral samples from meteorites that hit Titan, or buy them off pilots at the spaceport. Lynn even contributed to it. She offered me a good-sized chunk of tantalum for my collection, as a signing bonus. Yeah, we are. She's been my boss for a long time. I think of her as a friend. Don't tell her I said this, but she's not as much of a hard-ass as she'd like you to think. And despite what she says, I know she has a soft spot for me. 8 years, give or take a couple months. It's been a great job. Pays decent, and my rock collection's never looked better. I don't. Really. After what happened on Vectera, I seriously needed a break from Argos. And you're not shy about cracking rocks either, so I still get my fix. Knock yourself out, boss. Already taken care of, boss. I donated it to one of the tour companies in New Homestead. Geological formations are one of Titan's big tourist attractions. It hurt my heart a little to give it up, but the woman I donated them to promised they'd give me credit for collecting all the samples, assuming she ever puts them on display. Whether she does or not, I'm glad to know all my hard work won't be gathering dust in a storage unit somewhere.